3 days before the most important match of her grass court season, Alex Eala was standing on the same side of the net as her opponent, not warming up against her, not studying her from across the court, standing next to her, talking tactics, laughing during water breaks, exchanging forehands in cooperative practice, helping her improve. And Rebecca Mazarova was doing exactly the same thing in return. They were doubles partners. They were teammates. They were, by every visible measure, friends. And in 72 hours, they would walk onto center court in Birmingham knowing that only one of them was leaving with her season intact. That tension, that specific psychological complexity that comes from competing against someone who already knows everything about you, is what makes this semi-final one of the most compelling matches of the entire grass court season. And before you assume you already know how this plays out, I need you to understand something. The rankings tell you almost nothing about what is actually about to happen on that court. Let us start with what brought Alex Eala to Birmingham. Because context matters here, and the context is not simple. She arrived in England carrying the specific weight of a Roland Garros exit that hurt. Clay season ended earlier than she wanted, earlier than she planned, earlier than a player of her ambition and ranking can absorb without it leaving a mark. Some players in that situation need time. They need to process the disappointment, reset their mindset, take a breath before the next challenge arrives. The tour does not particularly care about any of that. It keeps moving. The calendar does not offer grief windows. And what Eala has shown this week in Birmingham is that she does not need one either. She arrived on grass and something shifted. Something unlocked. The way athletes sometimes find a surface that feels designed specifically for the way their game is built. A surface where the ball moves at the right pace and the points develop at the right rhythm and the instincts they have trained for years suddenly fire with perfect clarity. That appears to be exactly what has happened to Eala on the grass courts of Birmingham, and the results have been remarkable. Her opening round performance sent an immediate message to everyone else in the draw. From the first few games, she played with the kind of confidence and authority that does not come from a player still carrying emotional baggage from a previous tournament. There was no hesitation, no caution, no sign of a player managing her way through a match and hoping for the best. She imposed her game. She controlled rallies with aggressive shot-making. She served with precision and used her left-handed delivery to create angles that pulled her opponents wide before they had even settled into a rhythm. She won comfortably. She won convincingly. And the message was clear. Not just that she could win, but that she intended to dominate. The second round was where the story became more interesting. Because any player can look exceptional when everything is working. The real test of where a player actually is mentally and technically arrives in the moments when things stop working. When momentum shifts unexpectedly. When an opponent finds solutions. When the match becomes uncomfortable and the easy path forward closes. Eala passed that test. Rather than allowing frustration to build, she adjusted. Rather than waiting passively for the match to turn back in her favor, she took active control. Her intensity increased at exactly the right moment. Her decision-making sharpened under pressure rather than clouding over. She trusted her game when trusting her game required genuine belief and not just habit. She won in straight sets again. And those moments inside the match, those adjustments made under pressure, revealed something about her mental state that a simple scoreline cannot fully capture. The quarterfinal confirmed what the first two rounds had suggested. Eala is not just participating in this tournament. She is moving through it with a composure and a consistency that is genuinely difficult to achieve on grass. She has not dropped a single set all week. Let that land properly for a moment. Not one set lost across 3 professional matches on a surface that punishes mistakes instantly, that rewards aggression but can also flip momentum on 3 or 4 consecutive points, that produces more unexpected results per round than almost any other surface on the tour. Grass is not a surface where you simply grind through opponents and rely on superior baseline consistency. Points are faster. Recovery time is shorter. One poor service game can unravel an entire set. One loss of concentration at the wrong moment can cascade into a set loss before you fully register what happened. Eala has navigated all of that without losing a set. That is not luck. That is a player who has found something this week. The technical reason her game translates so well to this surface is worth understanding properly. Her left-handed serve is genuinely unusual on the WTA Tour, and it creates a specific problem that many right-handed opponents never fully solve. The ball does not just go wide. It goes wide at angles that the body's natural movement patterns are not trained to handle the same way they handle conventional right-handed serve directions. The trajectories feel unfamiliar. The positioning required to handle them effectively is slightly different from what right-handed players rehearse thousands of times in practice. And on grass, where the ball stays lower and moves faster through the court, that difference in angle is amplified rather than absorbed. Opponents find themselves pulled off the court from the very first shot of the rally. And once Eala has created that opening, her aggressive baseline game takes over with efficiency. She attacks early. She strikes cleanly from both wings. She refuses to give opponents time to reorganize their court position and find comfortable rally patterns. Grass rewards exactly those qualities, and Eala has spent this entire week demonstrating that she understands the surface better than most. Her body language throughout the tournament has been one of the most telling indicators of where she actually is as a player right now. She looks relaxed, not complacent, not disengaged, relaxed. There is a specific and important difference between those things. The best athletic performances almost always occur in that precise balance between intensity and freedom. Too much pressure and the body tightens, the swing shortens, the decision-making slows just enough to matter. Too little urgency and the sharpness fades. The elite performers find the middle ground and hold it. Eala has found it this week in Birmingham. And that balance becomes critically important when you factor in exactly what this tournament means beyond the immediate result. This is not simply about winning in Birmingham. This is about Wimbledon. Every ranking point earned this week carries consequences that extend far beyond this draw. The difference between arriving at Wimbledon as a seeded player and arriving unseeded is not just a number next to your name. It is a fundamentally different tournament experience. A seeded player gets protection. A seeded player avoids the most dangerous opponents in the early rounds. A seeded player has a path through the draw that gives her the opportunity to build momentum before facing the elite competition. An unseeded player walks into the draw with none of that protection and may find herself against a top 10 player in round 2. For Eala, the ranking points available from a deep run in Birmingham could make a very real difference to her Wimbledon seeding position. Suddenly, every game holds additional meaning. Every service hold carries weight beyond the immediate set. Every breakpoint opportunity is a piece of something much larger. And all of it leads directly to the player waiting across the net on semifinal day. Rebecca Mazarova. If your only reference point for this match is the rankings, you are going to misread what is about to happen. Rankings are summaries of past performance across many months of accumulated results. They tell you about consistency over time. What they do not always capture is the specific quality of a player in a specific week on a specific surface. And this week, Mazarova has been dangerous in the precise way that players ranked outside the top 100 occasionally become dangerous, when the surface suits them perfectly, when the conditions align with their physical tools, and when the confidence that those early round wins generate starts to compound with each match. Start with what she brings physically. At over 6 feet tall, she is operating with physical advantages that the majority of her opponents simply cannot replicate. Her serve becomes a weapon at that height in ways that shorter players cannot achieve, even with technically superior mechanics. The angle downward on the ball creates different problems for the returner. Her reach allows her to retrieve balls from positions that would end the point for most players. Her wingspan extends rallies that appear finished. Her ability to strike flat, penetrating ground strokes with pace generates pressure that accumulates across long matches. On grass specifically, where points are faster and the window to recover defensive position is smaller, those physical tools become even more effective. First strike tennis, attacking early, committing fully to aggressive intentions, rewards players who can generate pace and create uncomfortable situations from the first shot. Mazarova fits that profile completely, and the results of this week have confirmed it in competitive match conditions rather than just practice sessions. Her path through the draw has been built on 2 performances that deserve specific attention. First came a victory over a grass court specialist, a player whose game is specifically constructed for success on this surface, whose movement and technique and tactical understanding of grass is built through years of focused development on fast courts. Defeating that kind of player on her preferred surface is not something you achieve by being generally talented. It requires belief. It requires the willingness to trust your own strengths completely rather than adjusting your game to match what your opponent does best. Mazarova did not try to outgrass a grass court specialist. She imposed her game. She played aggressively. She trusted her serve and her power and her ability to create pressure through pace. And she won convincingly enough to turn heads around the tournament. That result announced that she was here for something real, not just a run through a softer section of the draw. Then came the quarterfinal, which revealed something even more valuable than the ability to win from a position of strength. After taking the opening set, she lost her momentum. The match shifted. Her opponent found solutions and fought back into the contest. This is the moment that separates players who are having a good week from players who have genuine competitive depth. When the first set advantage disappears, and suddenly you are in a real match rather than the comfortable match you thought you were managing, the response tells you everything. Lesser competitors in that situation begin protecting rather than competing. They start thinking about what could go wrong. They retreat from the aggression that brought them the first set advantage and try to survive rather than trying to win. Mazarova did exactly the opposite. When the deciding set arrived, she elevated dramatically. Her opponent found fewer opportunities to attack. The rallies became increasingly one-sided. The confidence in her body language became visible from every angle in the stadium. She did not just win the deciding set. She dominated it. She took control point by point and game by game until the outcome felt inevitable. That performance should register as a serious warning to anyone who thinks this semifinal is straightforward. Because when Mazarova is in that state of confidence, when the rhythm is there and the serve is landing and the forehand is flattening out and rushing opponents into uncomfortable positions, she becomes extremely difficult to stop. Her physical presence covers the court differently than most players. She retrieves situations that should be lost points. She generates pace that forces opponents to make decisions faster than they want to. On grass, all of those qualities become more pronounced rather than less. The surface does not slow her game down. It amplifies it. Now here is the element of this match that elevates it beyond a standard semifinal analysis. The thing that makes this genuinely fascinating from a psychological and tactical perspective. 3 days before this match, these two players were practicing together. Not just hitting casually. Working together. Sharing a court as doubles partners. And in professional tennis, that particular experience creates an exchange of information that no amount of video analysis can replicate. When you practice with someone, you share more than just shots. You share conversations about strategy. You discuss preferences without always realizing you are doing it. You observe reactions to mistakes up close rather than from across the net. You see how someone prepares between points. You notice the subtle rhythms of their movement, the micro adjustments in their stance before certain shots, the tells in their body language that become visible only from a few feet away rather than from the other side of the court. Television cameras catch the result. A doubles partner catches the process. Mazarova has watched Eala respond to adversity from standing distance. She has observed how she approaches important points. She has seen the routines and habits and patterns that never appear in a scouting report because they are too small and too contextual to survive the process of being written down. She has seen things that could be used. And Eala has the identical advantage in the opposite direction. She has studied Mazarova's service motion from proximity. She has felt the pace of her forehand in practice rallies. She has observed the details of her court coverage that analysts might miss entirely. Both players walk onto that court carrying intelligence about the other that most opponents never possess. And both players know that the other is carrying it. That mutual awareness creates a chess match that begins long before the first ball is struck. Because both players understand that their familiar patterns may no longer be reliable. Both players know that adjustments will be necessary. Both players are aware that the other will be looking for exactly the things she knows are there. Somewhere in the early games of this semifinal, one of them will attempt something unexpected. One of them will deliberately break a pattern that the other is anticipating. One of them will try to hide an intention that would otherwise be readable. The strategic dimension of this match has layers that standard semifinal previews simply do not capture. From a purely tactical standpoint, Eala's left-handed serve is going to be one of the central storylines. Against most right-handed players, that serve is close to automatic pressure. The angles drag opponents wide, open the court, and set up the rest of her game in a way that creates a repeatable template for winning service games. But Mazarova presents a specific challenge to that template that smaller players do not. Her wingspan allows her to reach serves that would trouble opponents with more conventional physical dimensions. Her court coverage helps neutralize angles that are typically decisive. Her ability to absorb pace and stay in the rally gives her the ability to convert situations that should be Eala's point into competitive exchanges. That means Eala cannot simply execute her default pattern and expect the same results she has been generating all week. Variety becomes essential. Location must change. Pace must vary. Mazarova must be kept uncertain about what is coming rather than allowed to settle into a rhythm of reading the left-handed angles. Predictability against this particular opponent would be genuinely dangerous. Mazarova's tactical approach is in some ways simpler to identify and in other ways harder to execute. She needs to serve well. On grass, with her physical tools, a dominant serving day can generate enough free points to shift the entire balance of a match. She needs to dictate with her forehand, getting the ball early, striking flat through the court, and rushing Eala into defensive positions rather than allowing her to organize her aggressive baseline game from comfortable situations. Most importantly, she needs to prevent Eala from finding the rhythm that has carried her through the tournament without dropping a set. If Mazarova can consistently pressure Eala's second serve and create uncertainty in service games that Eala has been winning comfortably, the competitive texture of the match changes entirely. Pressure in semifinals works differently than pressure in earlier rounds. The stakes are higher, the consequences are clearer, and the ability to hold your game together when the moment demands it becomes the defining question. Both players arrive at this semifinal with legitimate reasons to believe they should win. Eala has the ranking. She has the tournament momentum. She has the seeding advantage and the statistical fact of not having lost a set all week on a surface where losing sets is easy. She carries the confidence of a player who is ascending steadily toward the highest level of the sport and who has spent this entire week demonstrating that grass is a surface where her game makes complete sense. Mazarova counters with something different. Experience. Power. The specific knowledge that she has already beaten quality opponents on this surface this week and that her game, when it is operating at its ceiling, is capable of threatening anyone. She counters with the confidence that comes from winning a deciding set so dominantly that observers stopped questioning whether she belonged in this semifinal. There is also a larger story operating underneath all of the tactical analysis and all of the rankings and all of the Wimbledon implications. For both of these players, this match is about proving something that matters beyond Birmingham. For Eala, it is a chance to demonstrate that her rise up the rankings is not plateauing, that the grass court season represents a genuine opportunity to separate herself further from the pack, that the disappointment of Roland Garros was a surface mismatch rather than a ceiling. Every victory she earns here sends a message to the rest of the tour about what the next phase of her career looks like. For Mazarova, it is about something equally important, but different in character. It is about permanence. She has had breakthrough moments before. She has produced victories over elite opponents and shown flashes of a level that should produce a much higher ranking. The challenge for her career has been transforming those flashes into a sustained narrative. Birmingham represents one of those weeks where a single result can reframe an entire season. A semifinal victory over a top-ranked opponent on a grass court, 3 weeks before Wimbledon, would not just earn her ranking points. It would earn her a different kind of attention. It would earn her a different conversation in the broader tennis world. When motivations are that significant, when what is at stake extends beyond the immediate result and into the larger questions of career trajectory, and what a player is capable of when the pressure is highest, matches tend to produce something worth watching. And this one has all of the ingredients. Two players who know each other's games better than most opponents ever will. Two players with genuinely different styles and physical profiles and tactical approaches who are both operating near the top of their games on a surface that rewards aggression and punishes hesitation. Two players with something to prove that goes beyond the scoreline. At some point in this semifinal, there will be a turning point. A crucial service game that shifts the momentum irreversibly. A breakpoint opportunity that one player converts and the other loses. A tense extended rally at a critical score that determines who is playing with freedom and who is playing with fear for the next 20 minutes. Those moments cannot be predicted. They cannot be simulated in a preview. They happen in real time, shaped by everything that came before and by whatever resources each player can access in the moment when the match demands the most. One player will find those resources. The other will walk off the grass in Birmingham wondering how close she came. And the player who finds them will carry something more than a result into Wimbledon. She will carry the specific confidence that comes from winning when it mattered most, from performing under the exact kind of pressure that reveals what a player is genuinely made of. That is what is at stake when the first ball goes up in this semifinal. Not just a final spot, not just ranking points. Something harder to quantify and far more durable than either of those things. The answer to the question both players have been building toward all week. Who are you when it costs everything?